Elena Chen stood at the viewing port of the diplomatic vessel Earthrise, watching the massive Confederation station grow larger against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. The station was a marvel of engineering, a spinning wheel nearly 15 kilometers across, home to the representatives of 27 spacefaring species. And today humanity would be invited to take a seat at their table. Ambassador Chen will be docking in 20 minutes, Captain Morris said from behind her. The welcome committee is already assembled. Elena nodded, not turning from the view. Thank you, Captain. Is our team ready? Yes, ma'am. Though Dr. Okafor is still grumbling about the translation software. This brought a small smile to Elena's face. Tell him to save his complaints for after the ceremony. We'll have plenty of time to improve the translators once we're settled. As the ship approached the docking bay, Elena felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. 6 months ago, she had been a military strategist analyzing alien communication patterns. Now she was Earth's first ambassador to the stars, chosen for her quick thinking and ability to read between the lines, skills honed during 15 years in military intelligence. The Confederation's message had been unexpected. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 10 years ago and had explored barely a dozen star systems. According to their new alien contacts, most species weren't invited to join the Confederation until they had colonies in at least 30 systems. This honor made Elena suspicious from the start. Ambassador, you should see this, Dr. Okafor called from a nearby console. The linguist was frowning at his screen. I've been analyzing the welcome speech they sent over. The translation is accurate, but the subtext is strange. Elena moved to his side. Strange how? They keep referring to Earth as resource-rich and valuable. Those terms appear 17 times in various forms. They mention mutual cooperation only twice. Elena filed this information away. Noted, keep digging. When the Earthrise finally docked, Elena led her team of 12, scientists, diplomats, and 2 discreetly armed security officers, toward the airlock. She had chosen each member carefully, prioritizing sharp minds over political connections. The airlock hissed open to reveal a delegation of aliens waiting in the docking bay. The sight still took Elena's breath away despite months of studying their biology. 3 tall, willowy beings with iridescent skin stood at the front, representatives of the Zillar, one of the founding species of the Confederation. Behind them were members of 4 other species, each more alien than the last. Ambassador Chen of Earth, the central Zillar said, its voice melodious through the translator. I am High Counselor Venra. We welcome humanity to the Galactic Confederation. Elena bowed slightly. High Counselor, we are honored by your invitation and eager to learn from the Confederation's collective wisdom. Venra's large, faceted eyes gleamed. And we are eager to embrace humanity into our community. Your species has shown remarkable adaptability. The way the High Counselor paused before the last word made Elena's intelligence training buzz with warning. She maintained her diplomatic smile as they were escorted through the station's grand corridors. The Confederation was formed 12,000 years ago, Venra explained as they walked. We have guided countless young species toward prosperity and advancement. That's quite impressive, Elena replied. Humanity has much to learn about galactic cooperation. Indeed, another Zillar said. Your species developed faster-than-light travel remarkably quickly after discovering atomic energy. Many found this concerning. Elena noted the implied threat. We've always been quick learners. They arrived at a massive chamber where representatives from all 27 species were gathered. The architecture was breathtaking, a circular room with a huge table at its center, surrounded by raised platforms for each delegation. Above them, a transparent dome revealed the stars beyond. This is the Grand Council Chamber, Venra announced. Tomorrow you will be formally introduced to all members. For now, you will be shown to your quarters. After, settling into their assigned living space, comfortable but clearly designed with different physiologies in mind, Elena called her team together. Initial impressions? She asked. Admiral Jackson, her deputy, spoke first. They're hiding something. Did you notice the security? Heavy presence, but they tried to make it look casual. Dr. Okafor nodded. And linguistically, they keep using terms that imply ownership when referring to us. It could be a translation issue, but it probably isn't, Elena finished. Dr. Mehta, what about the station itself? The engineer looked up from her tablet. It's impressive technology, but not as advanced as I expected for a civilization claiming to be 12,000 years old. Some of it seems oddly compatible with our systems. Elena paced the room. They invited us too early. They're breaking their own protocols. The question is why? The formal introduction ceremony the next day was elaborate. Each species presented their credentials and history before the assembled confederation. When it was humanity's turn, Elena stood proudly. "We bring greetings from Earth," she began, reciting the prepared speech. "Humanity is honored to join this august body and contribute to galactic peace and prosperity." From her elevated position, Elena could see representatives whispering to each other. One reptilian species seemed particularly agitated. Their translator was off, but Elena had made sure her neural implant included a backup system, another military habit she hadn't abandoned. Too soon to bring them in, she caught from the reptilian delegate. The oceans alone contain enough. The rest was lost as they noticed her attention and stopped speaking. That evening, Elena encrypted a message to Earth. "First impressions concerning. Suggest accelerating Project Sentinel. We'll continue gathering information." Over the next week, Elena and her team attended orientation sessions, learning about Confederation protocols and history. They were assigned a guide, a Belhari named Torque, who never seemed to leave them alone. "Tomorrow you will meet with the Resource Allocation Committee," Torque told Elena on their 8th day. "They are most interested in establishing trade with Earth." "I'm sure they are," Elena replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. That night, while most of the station slept, Elena slipped away from her quarters using a small device that looped the security feeds, courtesy of Dr. Mehta's late-night tinkering. She made her way to the Confederation's public archives, using her credentials to access information about previous species who had joined. What she found disturbed her deeply. Pattern after pattern emerged of junior member worlds being stripped of resources within decades of joining. Species that resisted found themselves facing protection agreements that amounted to military occupation. Most troubling were the 7 species who had mysteriously lost membership status over the past century. All resource-rich worlds with relatively small populations. As Elena downloaded the data to a secure drive, she heard footsteps approaching. She quickly closed the terminal and slipped behind a column. High Counselor Venra and a bulky, tentacled being she recognized as the Commerce Minister entered the archives. "The humans are more perceptive than we anticipated," Venra was saying. "Their ambassador asks too many questions." "It doesn't matter," the Commerce Minister replied, voice gurgling through his breathing apparatus. "Once the preliminary agreements are signed, we'll have legal access to their oceans. The deuterium reserves alone will fuel the fleet for centuries. And if they refuse to sign, no species at their development stage can resist a unified Confederation demand. They'll sign or they'll be protected until they see reason." Elena remained perfectly still until they left, her mind racing. The Confederation wasn't inviting humanity to join a peaceful galactic community. They were preparing to exploit Earth. Back in her quarters, Elena sent another encrypted message to Earth. Confirmation of hostile intent received. Recommend immediate activation of Protocol Omega. We may need to leave the table sooner than anticipated. As she sent the message, Elena stared out at the stars visible through her window. The Confederation thought they were dealing with a naive species eager for galactic acceptance. They would soon discover how terribly they had misjudged humanity's ability to adapt and survive. 6 months had passed since humanity's introduction to the Galactic Confederation. Elena Chen's diplomatic team had settled into a routine on the massive space station, attending endless committee meetings and ceremonial functions. On the surface, they played the role of eager newcomers perfectly. Behind closed doors, they were building a case against the Confederation's true intentions. Elena sat in her office, reviewing the latest findings from her team. Dr. Okafor had spread dozens of trade agreements across her desk, color-coded and annotated. "It's all here." "Ambassador," he said, pointing to a pattern highlighted in red. "Every junior species follows the same path. First, they sign resource-sharing agreements. Then come the mutual defense treaties. Within 20 years, they've lost control of their major resources." Elena nodded grimly. "And what about those 7 species that disappeared from the records?" Dr. Mehta, who had been analyzing technical data, looked up from her tablet. I managed to access some restricted files. 3 of the species organized protests against resource quotas. 2 tried to form independent alliances. All 7 had their governments replaced with emergency management councils, dominated by the founding species. Admiral Jackson leaned against the wall, arms crossed. In military terms, we'd call this a conquest strategy. Divide, isolate, then absorb. Elena studied the star map they had constructed showing the positions of Confederation worlds. Earth was positioned near a cluster of resource-poor systems controlled by the founding members. Their location was no coincidence. They need Earth's resources, Elena said, particularly our oceans. According to what you found, Dr. Mehta, they're desperate for deuterium and certain minerals in our seawater. Exactly, Dr. Mehta confirmed. Their fusion technology is inefficient compared to what we've developed. They use massive amounts of deuterium and their traditional sources are nearly depleted. Elena's communication device chimed, a message from Earth, encrypted using quantum protocols that the Confederation couldn't detect. She read it silently, her expression giving nothing away. Good news? Admiral Jackson asked. Project Sentinel is ahead of schedule, Elena replied quietly. And Operation Lighthouse has been activated. The others exchanged knowing glances. They had all been briefed on Earth's contingency plans before departing. If the Confederation proved hostile, humanity wouldn't go quietly. A chime at the door interrupted them. Elena quickly motioned for the team to clear away their research. Enter, she called. Torque, their ever-present Belhari guide, stepped in. Ambassador Chen, the Resource Committee has requested your presence. They wish to present a proposal regarding Earth's oceanic territories. How timely, Elena said with a practiced smile. Please inform them I'll be there shortly. After Torque left, Elena turned to her team. It's starting. They'll present their first formal demand today. She tapped a small device on her wrist. Record everything. The Resource Committee chamber was smaller than the Grand Council room, but no less impressive. Representatives from 9 species sat around a crescent-shaped table, with Elena and Admiral Jackson seated at the open end. High Counselor Venra presided. Ambassador Chen, we have studied Earth's resource profile with great interest, Venra began. Your oceans contain elements vital to the prosperity of the Confederation. We're pleased to hear that Earth can contribute, Elena replied diplomatically. Cultural and resource exchange is why we joined these discussions. The Commerce Minister, a massive being named Grox, leaned forward, tentacles rippling with excitement. We propose an exclusive extraction agreement. The Confederation will establish processing facilities in your oceans, extracting deuterium and other elements beneficial to all members. Elena noted the word exclusive with concern. And what does Earth receive in exchange? Protection, Venra said smoothly. Your system lies near contested space. Without Confederation defense systems, you would be vulnerable to outside threats. These threats, Admiral Jackson spoke up. Could you identify them specifically? A uncomfortable silence followed. There are many dangers in the galaxy, Venra finally said, clearly annoyed by the question. The details are classified for security reasons. Elena nodded thoughtfully. I see, and these processing facilities, who would control them? They would be operated by Confederation engineers, Grox replied. Your people lack the necessary expertise. How much of our ocean resources would be extracted annually? Elena pressed. More uncomfortable glances were exchanged around the table. A thin, gray-skinned alien consulted a datapad before answering. Approximately 30% of your ocean volume would be processed yearly, it said. Elena and Jackson exchanged shocked looks. Genuine, not diplomatic. 30%? That would catastrophically alter our ecosystems, Elena objected. Earth's oceans are essential to our planet's climate regulation and food supply. Venra made a dismissive gesture. Technical solutions can be implemented. Many worlds adapt to resource extraction. It is the duty of junior members to contribute to the greater good. Elena maintained her composure with effort. We'll need to consult with Earth's governments. This proposal requires careful consideration. Of course, Venra agreed, though his tone suggested the outcome was already determined. We expect your response within 1 lunar cycle of your world. After the meeting, Elena and Jackson walked silently back to their quarters, aware of being monitored. Once inside their secure room, Elena activated the anti-surveillance measures Dr. Mehta had installed. 30%, Jackson said, finally able to speak freely. They'd kill Earth in less than a decade. And that's just their opening demand, Elena added. Did you notice how they mentioned contested space? They're already setting up the justification for military presence if we refuse. Elena's secure communicator signaled an incoming message. She read it and looked up at Jackson with a grim smile. Earth has received our reports. The Security Council has unanimously activated Phase 2 of Protocol Omega. Jackson raised an eyebrow. So soon? That's aggressive. Appropriately so, given what we've learned, Elena replied. It's time to accelerate our plans. Over the next 2 weeks, Elena's team worked on 2 fronts. Publicly, they attended meetings and requested more information about the resource extraction proposal, appearing to seriously consider it while raising technical concerns. Privately, they gathered evidence of the Confederation's exploitation of other worlds and made contact with representatives from other junior species. The Nox Tari, a newly admitted species from a mineral-rich planet, were already feeling the pressure of extraction demands. Their junior diplomat, Vex, met Elena in a seemingly random encounter in the station's arboretum, a meeting carefully orchestrated to appear accidental. Your warnings were correct. Ambassador Chen, Vex whispered, his feathered crest flattening in distress. They've demanded mining rights to our sacred mountains. When our council hesitated, Confederation ships began exercises in our orbit. Elena nodded sympathetically. Have you spoken with the other junior members I mentioned? Yes, the Kalathi and Zendar are also concerned. The Friel are too afraid to meet, but their trade representative sent data confirming your suspicions. Good. Keep building those connections quietly. There will come a moment when unity becomes essential. Elena's communicator vibrated, a coded pulse pattern rather than a standard alert. 3 quick pulses. Breakthrough. She excused herself and returned to her quarters, where Dr. Mehta was waiting with barely contained excitement. We cracked their primary defense network, the engineer said without preamble. Just as we suspected, their technology isn't actually more advanced than ours, just different. Their systems have remained largely unchanged for millennia. They never expected anyone to approach security from our angle. What did you find? Their fleet deployment plans, Dr. Mehta replied, showing Elena a holographic display. They're already positioning ships near Earth disguised as routine patrols. And I found this. She pulled up another file. Their internal assessment of Earth's military capability. Elena read it and laughed. They think our fusion drives are primitive copies of their technology. They have no idea we developed them independently. That's not all, Dr. Mehta continued. They've completely missed the significance of our quantum communication network. They think it's just an experimental curiosity, not a functional system. This was the advantage humanity had been counting on. While the Confederation relied on traditional faster-than-light communication with inherent delays, Earth had developed instantaneous quantum entanglement communication, technology that the Confederation had apparently never mastered. That night, Elena sent a quantum-encrypted message to Earth. Defense network access achieved. Confederation preparing coercive measures. Alliance with 7 junior species progressing. Request final authorization for Protocol Omega Phase 3. The response came instantly. Authorization granted. Project Sentinel deployment complete. Operation Lighthouse standing by. Proceed when ready. Elena stared out at the alien stars. In the reflection of the window, she could see her team waiting for her decision. The Confederation thought they were dealing with a naive, easily manipulated species. They had invited humanity to their table thinking Earth would be just another feast for them to consume. But humanity had been playing a different game entirely. And soon, very soon, the galaxy would watch in terror. The summons to appear before the full Confederation Council came earlier than Elena had anticipated. Only 3 weeks had passed since the Resource Committee's outrageous proposal, and Earth's official response wasn't due for another week. The urgent meeting request suggested the Confederation was losing patience. They're accelerating their timeline, Admiral Jackson observed as they prepared for the meeting. Something must have spooked them. Elena nodded, straightening her formal diplomatic uniform. Dr. Mehta's team may have left digital footprints when they accessed the defense network. Or one of our new allies might have been caught communicating with us. What's our approach today? Jackson asked. We listen to their ultimatum, Elena replied calmly. Then we present ours. The Grand Council chamber was filled to capacity when Elena and her team arrived. All 27 member species were present, an unusual occurrence for what was ostensibly a routine meeting with a junior member. Elena noted the increased security presence and the tension in the room. The Confederation was dropping its pretense of benevolence. High Counselor Venra didn't waste time on ceremonial greetings. Ambassador Chen, the Confederation has received troubling reports regarding Earth's activities. What activities would those be, High Counselor? Elena asked innocently. Your military vessels have been observed deploying unusual devices near your outer system planets, Venra stated. Furthermore, communications between Earth and certain junior members have circumvented official Confederation channels. So they had noticed something, though clearly not everything. Elena maintained her composure. Earth is entitled to secure its own system, and we're naturally forming relationships with our fellow members. The Commerce Minister Grox slammed a tentacle against the table. You were admitted to this body on probationary status. Your technological deployments must be approved by the Defense Committee. Interesting, Elena said, her voice hardening slightly. I've reviewed all admission protocols and there is no probationary status mentioned anywhere. We joined as full members with all rights that entails. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Elena had clearly touched a nerve. Ambassador Chen, Venra said, trying to regain control. Perhaps we should discuss more pressing matters. The Resource Committee's proposal requires your government's immediate acceptance. Elena raised an eyebrow. Immediate? Our response isn't due for another week. Circumstances have changed, Venra replied. The Confederation faces resource shortages that threaten the stability of multiple systems. Earth must do its part. I see, Elena said. And what happens if Earth declines this generous offer to have its oceans drained? The chamber fell silent. Venra's iridescent skin darkened, a sign of anger in his species. That would be most unfortunate, he said finally. The Confederation would be forced to establish a temporary administrative authority to ensure Earth's resources are properly utilized for the common good. There it was, the threat laid bare. Not just exploitation, but outright occupation. Elena looked around the chamber slowly, making eye contact with representatives from several junior species. She saw fear in some, hope in others. The moment had come sooner than planned, but they were ready. High Counselor, Elena said, her voice clear and carrying to every corner of the room. Before Earth responds to this ultimatum, I wish to present evidence to the full council. Evidence of what? Venra demanded. Of systematic exploitation and coercion by the founding members against junior species, Elena replied, activating her tablet. With the council's permission, I'll display this evidence on the central screen. Without waiting for permission, Dr. Mehta transmitted the data from her device. The massive screen above the council table came to life, displaying a damning collection of secret agreements, resource extraction statistics, and military deployment records. What you see here, Elena explained as the data scrolled, is a pattern spanning 2,000 years. New members are admitted, their resources are stripped, and any resistance is met with military intervention disguised as administrative assistance. The chamber erupted in chaos. Junior members began shouting questions and accusations. The founding species representatives tried to shut down the presentation, but Dr. Mehta had locked them out of their own system. This is outrageous, Grox bellowed. These are internal security documents. You have violated Confederation law by accessing them. Perhaps, Elena acknowledged, but their contents prove that the Confederation itself violates its own founding principles. You haven't created a cooperative galactic community. You've built an empire that preys on developing worlds. Venra stood, his tall frame looming over the table. This presentation is terminated. Ambassador Chen, you and your delegation are confined to quarters pending investigation for espionage and sedition against the Confederation. Elena remained calm. That won't be possible, High Counselor. Effective immediately, Earth formally withdraws its application for membership in the Galactic Confederation. This announcement created even more uproar. Venra's voice cut through the noise. Withdrawal is not permitted during the probationary period. Furthermore, your ships are currently surrounded by Confederation vessels. You have nowhere to go, Ambassador. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Are you certain about that? She tapped her wrist communicator once. Throughout the station, all human personnel received the signal and began moving to predetermined positions. What I haven't shared with you, Elena continued, addressing the entire chamber now, is that humanity has spent these past 6 months forming our own alliance with 7 other exploited worlds, including some in this very room. Accusations of treason erupted from the founding members. Elena raised her voice to be heard above the din. We call it the Mutual Defense Compact. Unlike the Confederation, membership is truly voluntary, and resource sovereignty is guaranteed. This is meaningless, Venra shouted. Your primitive alliance cannot stand against the Confederation fleet. Even now, our ships are moving to secure Earth and the systems of any who would join your foolish rebellion. Admiral Jackson stepped forward. I wouldn't be so sure about that, High Counselor. You might want to check your tactical displays. Several military representatives hurriedly consulted their devices. The color drained from their faces. Impossible, one whispered. They've vanished from our sensors. Not vanished, Jackson corrected. Just operating with technology you don't understand. While you've been stagnating for thousands of years, humanity has been innovating. Project Sentinel isn't a weapons system. It's a network of quantum field generators that render our ships invisible to your detection methods. Elena addressed the chamber again. The Confederation fleet is indeed in position around several worlds, including Earth, but so is our fleet around yours. You just can't see them. For the first time, real fear showed in Venra's expression. You're bluffing. Your technology cannot be that advanced. Would you like a demonstration? Elena asked quietly. She tapped her communicator again. Throughout the Confederation's home systems, hundreds of previously invisible human ships suddenly appeared on their sensors, positioned near critical infrastructure, defense platforms, and key military assets. On the Council's tactical display, the sudden appearance of these vessels created a constellation of alarm signals. The human ships weren't attacking, they were simply there, watching, waiting. This is an act of war, Grox bellowed. No, Elena corrected. This is a negotiating position. We have no interest in conflict. We simply refuse to be your next victims. Elena turned to address the junior members directly.
Any world that wishes to join the Mutual Defense Compact will receive immediate protection from human vessels already in position.
Your resources will remain your own. Your sovereignty will be respected. Representatives from several species began urgent conversations with their governments. The founding members watched helplessly as their carefully constructed power structure began to fracture before their eyes. Venra made one last attempt to regain control. Security. Arrest the human delegation immediately. The station's security forces moved toward Elena's team, weapons ready. But they stopped short as Dr. Mehta activated another device. A shimmering energy field surrounded the human delegation. Another technology you might find interesting, Elena explained. A portable shield generator. Quite useful in hostile situations. She turned to face Venra directly. High Counselor, humanity came to your table in good faith. We found corruption and exploitation instead of cooperation. Now we're leaving your table and taking our friends with us. You cannot leave, Venra insisted, though his voice had lost its authority. The consequences, Elena interrupted, will be determined by your next actions. Attack any member of our compact, and you'll learn just how creative humans can be when threatened. She gestured to her team, and they began moving toward the chamber's exit, protected by their shield. As they reached the door, Elena turned back one last time. The Confederation has ruled through fear for too long. But you should understand something fundamental about humans, High Counselor. We don't respond well to threats. We overcome them. Remember that before you consider your next move. As they left the chamber, alerts. Alarms blared through the Confederation station as Elena and her team raced toward the docking bay, where the Earthrise waited. Security forces were mobilizing, but they moved with confusion and hesitation. The sudden appearance of human ships throughout Confederation space had thrown their command structure into chaos. Docking bay sealed, Admiral Jackson reported as they rounded a corner and found their path blocked by a heavy security door. Dr. Mehta stepped forward, connecting her device to the door's control panel. Standard Confederation security algorithms. Give me 30 seconds. We may not have 30 seconds, Elena said, glancing back as the sound of approaching guards echoed down the corridor. Then give me 10. Dr. Mehta replied, her fingers flying across the interface. The security door slid open just as the first guards appeared at the far end of the corridor. Elena's team hurried through, Dr. Okafor pausing to activate a small device that created a temporary energy barrier behind them. That won't hold them long, he warned. It doesn't need to, Elena assured him. They reached the Earthrise with seconds to spare. Captain Morris had the engines primed and ready, having received the evacuation signal minutes earlier. As the last team member boarded, the ship's systems reported Confederation vessels moving to blockade the station. They're trying to trap us here, Captain Morris said as Elena reached the bridge. Expected, she replied calmly. Activate the quantum field generator. The ship hummed as the advanced technology came online. On Confederation sensors, the Earthrise simply vanished. By the time the station's tractor beams activated, they were grasping at empty space. Take us out, Captain, Elena ordered. Slow and steady. No need to announce our departure with engine signatures. The Earthrise slipped away from the station, passing silently between the Confederation vessels that were frantically searching for them. Only when they were well clear did Elena allow herself to relax slightly. Status report on the compact members? She asked. Admiral Jackson consulted his secure terminal. 7 species have officially announced their withdrawal from the Confederation. Their ships are moving to rendezvous points under the protection of our vessels. Earth reports Operation Lighthouse is fully activated. Quantum communication networks are linking all compact members. And the Confederation's response? Confusion, mostly. Their fleet is spreading thin, trying to maintain presence at too many locations. They've lost sensor contact with most of our ships, and they're struggling to adapt to the situation. Elena nodded, satisfied with the initial outcome. They've grown complacent over thousands of years. They don't know how to handle a genuine challenge to their authority. Dr. Okafor joined them on the bridge, his expression troubled. Ambassador, I've been monitoring Confederation communications. They're preparing a statement declaring us outlaws and accusing Earth of technological theft. Let them, Elena replied. It won't change the reality on the ground or in space. As the Earthrise navigated the edge of the system, heading for the rendezvous point where representatives from the new compact would meet, Elena prepared for the next phase of humanity's plan. The dramatic exit from the Confederation table had been just the beginning. Now came the more challenging work of building a genuine alliance. 3 days later, the Earthrise arrived at the rendezvous point, a neutral space station constructed in secret by Earth and its allies over the past 6 months. Representatives from all 8 founding members of the Mutual Defense Compact were gathering. For the first official summit, Elena entered the conference room to find a very different scene from the Confederation Council. Instead of the grandiose architecture and hierarchical seating, this room was arranged in a perfect circle with identical positions for each delegation. No species sat higher than another. Vex of the Noxtari approached her, feathered crest raised in a gesture of respect and excitement. Ambassador Chen, you've done the impossible. 7 days ago, my world faced certain exploitation. Today, we stand as equals in a new alliance. Not my accomplishment alone, Elena replied warmly. Your courage in sharing information about Confederation activities was crucial to our success. Other representatives joined them, the crystalline Kalathi, the gas-breathing Zendar in their environmental suits, and delegates from 4 other species who had suffered under Confederation rule. Each brought unique perspectives and resources to the alliance. The Confederation has issued formal condemnation of our actions, Elena informed them once everyone was seated. They're threatening military response if we don't return to their authority within 10 standard cycles. An empty threat, the Zendar representative rasped through his translator. Our latest intelligence shows their fleet stretched too thin to mount effective operations. Perhaps, Elena cautioned, but we shouldn't underestimate them. They still control substantial resources and have the loyalty of many worlds. What is Earth's proposal? Asked the Kalathi delegate, her crystalline form refracting light as she spoke. Elena activated the central display, showing a strategic overview of known space. Operation Lighthouse is now complete. All our worlds are connected via quantum communication network, allowing instantaneous coordination regardless of distance. She highlighted several key sectors. Project Sentinel has deployed quantum field generators throughout our territories, rendering our defensive assets invisible to Confederation sensors. For now, this gives us a critical advantage. But technology alone won't sustain our alliance, she continued. The Confederation failed because it was built on exploitation. The compact must be different, founded on genuine cooperation and mutual respect. Over the next several hours, the delegates hammered out the core principles of their new alliance. Resources would remain under sovereign control, with fair trade agreements benefiting all parties. Technology would be shared, allowing less developed worlds to advance at their own pace. Most importantly, military assets would be coordinated for defense only, never as tools of coercion. As the formal session ended, Elena received an urgent message from Earth. She excused herself and retreated to a private communication room. The face of Admiral Wei, head of Earth Space Command, appeared on the screen. Ambassador Chen, we've detected unusual activity in the Confederation core systems. Multiple fleet movements, communications blackouts, and what appears to be internal conflict. Their power structure is fragmenting, Elena observed. Exactly as we hoped, Admiral Wei nodded. Yes, but it's happening faster and more violently than anticipated. Several mid-tier members are openly challenging the founding species now that they've seen it's possible to defy them. And the Confederation's response? Harsh. They've deployed military assets to 3 systems that were showing signs of dissent. We're monitoring the situation, but we need to decide if we'll intervene, Elena finished. Exactly. The compact is new and untested. Engaging Confederation forces directly would be risky. Elena considered the options carefully. The compact had formed to protect its members, not to topple the Confederation. Yet they couldn't stand by while other worlds suffered the fate they had narrowly avoided. Prepare a diplomatic packet, she decided. Offer compact protection to any world that formally rejects Confederation authority. But make it clear we won't engage militarily unless Confederation forces directly threaten civilian populations. Understood, Admiral Wei replied. And there's one more thing you should know. High Counselor Venra has been removed from power. Apparently, the Confederation leadership blames him for mishandling the human situation. This was significant news. Who replaced him? A Zillar named Talvex. Less aggressive, more pragmatic according to our intelligence. He's requested direct communication with Earth's leadership. Elena raised an eyebrow. They want to negotiate already? That's sooner than expected. They don't have much choice, Admiral Wei said. Their entire power structure is based on the perception of overwhelming superiority. Once that perception cracked, the foundation began to crumble. After the communication ended, Elena returned to the conference room where informal discussions continued among the compact delegates. She shared the news about the Confederation's internal struggles. They want to negotiate, she explained. But we need to decide our position. Do we seek peaceful coexistence with a reformed Confederation, or do we encourage its complete dissolution? The debate that followed was spirited. Some delegates, like the Zendar, who had suffered greatly under Confederation rule, advocated for pushing until the oppressive structure collapsed entirely. Others, including the Kalathi, suggested that stability might be better served by forcing reforms while maintaining the broader galactic framework. Elena listened to all perspectives before offering her thoughts. Humanity's goal was never to replace one galactic hegemon with another. We believe in self-determination for all species. She paused, looking at each delegate in turn. The Confederation as it exists must end. Its exploitative practices cannot continue. But a truly reformed galactic community that respects the sovereignty of all members? That could bring stability and prosperity to far more worlds than our compact alone. Vex of the Noxtari spoke up. You suggest we offer them terms rather than merely defending ourselves? Exactly, Elena confirmed. We dictate the terms of peaceful coexistence. Equal representation, resource sovereignty, technological autonomy. If they accept, we help build the grand diplomatic hall of New Geneva Station hummed with tension. Constructed in Earth orbit specifically for this historic meeting, the facility represented humanity's new approach to galactic diplomacy. Open, transparent, but heavily secured. Quantum field generators surrounded the station, and the combined fleet of the Mutual Defense Compact maintained a protective formation that was visible to all. No more hidden strengths. No more deception. The galaxy would see exactly what they were dealing with. Elena Chen stood at the viewport watching as the Confederation diplomatic vessel approached. 14 days had passed since humanity's dramatic exit from the Confederation Council. In that time, the galaxy had transformed. 17 additional worlds had declared independence from the Confederation, though only 5 had formally joined the compact. "They're right on schedule," Admiral Jackson noted, joining Elena at the window. Punctuality, their first concession. Elena smiled slightly. "Let's hope it's not their last." The Confederation had requested this meeting 3 days ago, after their initial military response had faltered against the invisible defenses of the compact worlds. Their attempt to make an example of the Noxtari homeworld had failed spectacularly when their warships found themselves suddenly surrounded by human vessels that appeared from nowhere. Not a shot had been fired, just a clear demonstration that the old rules no longer applied. "How are our allies feeling about today?" Elena asked. "Nervous but resolute," Jackson replied. "The Kalathi representative said something I thought was profound. For the first time, we're negotiating without fear." Elena nodded appreciatively. "That's exactly what we wanted. Fear has been the Confederation's weapon for too long." The delegation that disembarked from the Confederation vessel was smaller than expected. Leading them was not a Zealar as anticipated, but a member of the Belhari species, Torque, their former guide on the Confederation station. "Ambassador Chen," he greeted her with a formal bow. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Counselor Torque," Elena replied, noting his new rank with interest. "Welcome to New Geneva Station." Torque's expression registered surprise. "You recognized my promotion quickly." "We make it our business to stay informed," Elena said simply. "Please follow me to the conference room." As they walked through the station corridors, Elena noted the composition of the Confederation delegation, representatives from 3 founding species and 2 mid-tier members. The power balance was shifting already. The conference room reflected Earth's diplomatic philosophy. A circular table with equal positions, excellent acoustics for clear communication, and notably no surveillance devices. Trust would be built on transparency, not espionage. Once everyone was seated, Elena opened the proceedings. "The Mutual Defense Compact welcomes this opportunity for dialogue with the Galactic Confederation. To ensure productive discussion, all quantum communication systems are active, allowing our respective governments to participate in real time." Torque nodded in acknowledgement. "The Confederation appreciates your willingness to meet. Recent events have forced us to reconsider certain policies." "I'm pleased to hear it," Elena replied. "Let me be clear about the Compact's position. We seek peaceful coexistence, not conflict. We believe in a galaxy where all species determine their own fate, free from coercion or exploitation." A Zilar representative named Selvor leaned forward. "Noble sentiments, Ambassador. But surely you understand that galactic stability requires structure and leadership." "Leadership, yes," Elena agreed. "Exploitation, no. The Confederation's practice of stripping resources from junior members while offering protection from threats that don't exist. That system is over." "You speak as if your compact controls the galaxy," Selvor said, a hint of the old arrogance in his tone. "You are 8 worlds against hundreds," Elena smiled. 8 worlds today. How many tomorrow? Your power was built on the perception of invincibility. That perception is gone." She activated the central display, showing a galaxy map with Confederation worlds in red, compact worlds in blue, and newly independent worlds in green. "In 2 weeks, 17 worlds have declared independence," Elena continued. "Your fleets can't be everywhere at once. For every world you try to force back into submission, 2 more will break away." Torque raised a hand to silence Selvor before he could respond. "Ambassador Chen is correct. The old model is unsustainable. That is why I have been authorized to propose a new framework for galactic cooperation." This was unexpected. Elena had anticipated demands, threats, or attempts to divide the compact. Instead, the Confederation was actually proposing change. "We're listening," she said cautiously. Torque activated his own data device, sending information to the central display. A restructured galactic assembly. Equal representation for all member worlds. Resource sovereignty guaranteed by binding treaty. Technology sharing initiatives to reduce disparities between developed and developing worlds. Elena studied the proposal, looking for the hidden trap. It seemed too good to be true. The Confederation offering exactly what the compact had been formed to achieve. And what does the Confederation gain from this restructuring? She asked. Stability, Torque replied simply. The alternative is continued fragmentation and eventual conflict that would harm all our peoples. The founding species have dominated for millennia, yes, but we are not blind to changing realities. Many of these provisions mirror the Compact's founding principles, Elena observed. We've studied your alliance carefully, Torque acknowledged. Your approach has merit even if your methods were disruptive. Elena exchanged glances with her team. The proposal deserved serious consideration, but caution was still warranted. Before we discuss specifics, Elena said, I need to understand something. 2 weeks ago, the Confederation was threatening Earth with military occupation. What changed besides the tactical situation? Torque hesitated, then replied with unexpected candor. Internal revolution, Ambassador. The removal of High Counselor Venra was just the beginning. 6 of the 9 members of the Inner Council have been replaced. Those who championed exploitation over cooperation have lost power. Because they failed to control us? Admiral Jackson asked skeptically. Because they failed, period, Torque corrected. The Confederation has grown stagnant under their leadership. Our technology has barely advanced in 1,000 years. Our economy is increasingly unstable as resources grow scarce. Many of us have argued for reform for centuries, but the power structure prevented it. He looked directly at Elena. Your defiance created an opportunity for change that many of us have long awaited. The negotiations continued for 3 days. Teams of experts from both sides debated every provision, closing loopholes and strengthening guarantees. The quantum communication network allowed instant consultation with governments across dozens of worlds. On the final day, Elena met privately with Torque before the formal signing ceremony. There's still one question you haven't answered, she said, as they stood in the observation lounge, Earth visible below them. Why did the Confederation invite humanity to join in the first place? We were technologically advanced enough to be interesting, but supposedly not advanced enough to be a threat. Torque made a sound that Elena had learned was the Belhari equivalent of a sigh. That was Venra's miscalculation. Your world's water resources alone would have solved our fusion fuel shortages for centuries. But there was something else, something in your historical records that fascinated and terrified him. Our history? Elena asked, surprised. What aspect? Your adaptability, Torque explained. No other species we've encountered has advanced so rapidly or survived so many self-inflicted near extinctions. Venra believed that bringing you under Confederation control early was the safest approach. If humans developed independently for another century, he left the thought unfinished. He feared we would become exactly what we have become. Elena realized, yes. The irony is that by trying to prevent that future, he accelerated it. Torque turned to face her directly. I've studied your species extensively, Ambassador. Humans are unlike any race we've encountered. You fight amongst yourselves constantly, yet unite instantly against outside threats. You create beautiful art and devastating weapons with equal passion. You're capable of both great cruelty and remarkable compassion. We're complicated, Elena acknowledged with a small smile. You're catalysts, Torque corrected. In less than one standard cycle, you've completely transformed a galactic order that stood for 12,000 years. Even those of us who welcome change find that terrifying. Elena, consider this as she looked down at Earth, a small blue planet that had reached out to the stars and found its own unique place among them. Fear isn't always negative. Counselor Torque, sometimes it inspires necessary change. Hours later, Elena stood before representatives from 23 worlds, the original 8 Compact members, the 5 new additions, and 10 Confederation worlds that had chosen to participate in the first phase of the restructuring. The signing ceremony was being broadcast across thousands of inhabited worlds. Today marks a new beginning for all our peoples, she began. Not an end to the Confederation, but its evolution into a truly cooperative body where all members stand as equals. She gestured to the document displayed on screens around.